afternoon. I call the Senate Committee on Local Government Elections and Pensions to order. Matt, please call the roll.
Senators Black. Here. Henderson. Here. Beck. Bratton. Berger. Here. Crawford. Here. Nicola. Here. Nuremberg.
We have a quorum. I think we were all noticed up that we were going to try to go into executive session and pass some bills to begin with. So with that, I move we go into executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. We are in executive session. I move to bring up Senate Bill 62. Do I have a second?
Second.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Simple 271. That's my fault.
I read instead of looked, folks. It's what happens when you get somebody from Northwest Missouri who doesn't know how to read. Bad education. I move to bring up Senate Bill 271. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Senate Bill 271 was heard last week and relates to fire protection ordinances. I think some of you remember me discussing that. I have a Senate Subcommittee substitute ending in .02C, which was distributed last week. I move for its adoption. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we now have Senate Committee substitute in front of us. What would that do? It just added all counties to make sure that they were in there represented on this animal livestock bill dealing with fire suppression. Okay? Yes, Senator Beck.
So you said that's all counties now, St. Louis County included, every county?
Let me make sure it wasn't all third class, but I think it was all. It was all with any kind of these animal facilities. Think you might want to protect pigs?
Well, I mean, is the fire protection, I mean, what if the fire would spread, you know, I mean, in St. Louis County, something of that nature, it's really not about the pigs for me, but.
Yeah, that's why Dad and I grew up arguing whether we all have CRP or not, because somebody could start a trash fire in Kansas City and burn our farm up in Gentry County. You know.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. I will.
I
will add
I was out of that
this.
committee, just so you know, I left that committee
Yeah,
last week. So.
I do want to, though, you bring up something that I did not say last week. As somebody that's, and remember, very rural county, but we looked at putting in commercial flushing stools at the Ag Center. I don't remember whether you've been there or not whenever we built that. And the fire suppression system, and there's not enough water to be able to manage a lot of those in a truly rural area. Now, I realize St. Louis County, I'm probably not talking about St. Louis County, correct?
Right.
And maybe parts of Jefferson County, but I think you might be able to say that, yeah, I can see there's probably some places where we only have 1.5, 2-inch water lines maximum, and they won't supply the water needed to be able to put those suppression systems in.
And I understand that, Senator.
Yeah.
I just was looking at St. Louis County in general. We do have that ability, and maybe that's something we could.
Yeah, we can
later.
talk. We can.
Whatever. I'm not worried about Jefferson County because I don't represent Jefferson County. It's just St. Louis County. So, but I appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
Any other discussion? I move that we do pass Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 2. I thought we did. I voted on it once. We'll do that again. We're going to do the committee sub. We're going to re-vote on that one. I have a Senate Committee substitute ending in .02C, which was distributed last week. I move for its adoption. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes. I move that we do pass Senate Committee substitute Senate Bill 271. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Beck.
I'm going to vote aye with the caveat that I'm going to have a conversation with the senator.
Bratton. Berger.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Nicola. Nuremberg.
A vote of 7-0, we have due pass. Senate Committee Substitute, Senate Bill 271. I move to bring up Senate Bill 152. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion about Senate Bill 152? Senator Beck.
So this bill pretty much stayed intact. I actually like where he is going with this bill, and I think there are going to be some future conversations with it on the floor. So I'll be voting yes on the bill, but I just want to I guess the senator's not here, but yeah. I'm going to be have some future conversations on what this bill looks like.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yeah, I move that you just think faster than I do, Choinka, because you're sick. You should work around me long enough to know that I'm a little slow. It's important. Gives everybody time to think. I move that we do pass Senate Bill 152. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Matt, please call the roll.
Senators Black.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Beck. Bratton. Berger. Crawford.
Aye.
Nicola. Nuremberg.
By your vote of 7-0, you have due pass Senate Bill 152. I move to bring up Senate Bill 240. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion about Senate Bill 240? Seeing none, I move that we do pass Senate Bill 240. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Matt, please call the roll.
Senators Black.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Beck. Bratton. Berger. Crawford.
Aye.
Nicola.
No.
Nuremberg.
6-1. By your vote of 6-1, you have due pass Senate Bill 240. Okay, moving on. I move we bring up Senate Bill 182. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 182?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment, and I'm trying to distribute it, and I've talked to the sponsor of the bill before this, and we can have that conversation. I want to get these amendments to these two folks down here. So do I need to
Would you
move for its
please
adoption before I
explain your
talk?
amendment?
I'll explain it first then. Yeah, so if you go to page 4, what this would do, this would simply say that you could not electioneer within 50 feet instead of the current 25 feet that you have now of the door of the polling place. It would be moved to 50 feet. However, the candidate only themselves could be at that 25-foot mark and do what they want. Not the candidate committee, not any proposition, whatever we're looking at. It'd be only the candidate. I've seen this numerous times. It's a problem in a lot of areas when we have these people all up next to the door. People feel unsafe. I think this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, where just the candidate, would be able to be in that 25-foot range. And if the Senator Crawford would like to, we had talked about this for a little bit, but I think it's a very good change.
Actually, I do support this amendment. I had a couple instances in my district this past election cycle, and it just so happened that I think both of them were at churches, and it caused a problem because people were wanting to put things on the church property that churches were not wanting, and so the people moved to the sidewalk, and so they said, well, this is public property, so you can do it here. And so it was a problem. I mean, I heard several complaints about it being a problem. So I'm okay with the amendment. I support the amendment.
And I know the clerks are in favor of this amendment also, too, just so we're clear.
Senator Henderson.
I thank you for bringing this amendment. I think it's a problem, too. And I think I hear from people that say, I don't want to be chased to the door. You've had X number of days to campaign, and so I don't want to be chased up to the door that day and have people try to maybe intimidate me or make me change my vote at that point. So I like that. Thank you.
Any other discussion about the amendment? No. Okay, we're going to vote on the amendment.
I have to move for its adoption, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, I move for its adoption. Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
I
Can you
thought
do that?
we just do that automatic.
All right,
If
that's
you
fine.
did an amendment. All right.
Just want to make sure it's all right, Mr. Chair.
Senator Vecht moved for the adoption of Amendment 1, Senate Amendment 1 to, oh, now, Matt, you're going to have to forgive me, we're on 182, to Senate Bill 182. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. The amendment passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, with the amendment, I move that we roll the amendment into Senate Bill 182. Okay. I move that we roll it into a Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 182. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I move that we do pass Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 182 as amended. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second. Matt, would you please call the roll?
Senators Black. Aye. Henderson. Aye. Beck. Aye. Bratton. Berger. Aye. Crawford.
Aye.
Nicola. Aye. Nuremberg.
By your vote of 7-0, you have do pass Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 182 as amended. I move that we leave executive session and return to open session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. We are out of executive session. The first bill that I have on the agenda is Senate Bill 169, Senator Berger. Please begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Jamie Berger, representing the 27th Senate District. Thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 169 today. Senate Bill 169 is truly a simple bill, transient guest tax bill. This legislation would simply add the counties of St. Genevieve and Perry to the current list of counties able to impose a transient guest tax for the promotion of tourism. The option would go to a vote of the people in the county and must be approved before being imposed. Thank you again. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Senator Berger this time? Yes. Senator Henderson.
All I was going to say is thank you for bringing this. I know St. Genevieve especially, you're probably more familiar with Perryville, but that's actually part of mine down there, and I think they need this, and they're looking for ways to try to help themselves a little bit.
Thank you, and I actually just met with them in my office. They're here to testify today. St. John County is on behalf of this, so it's a good thing for them, and again, it's voted on by the people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody testify in favor? If we do, please come up. I don't know whether your piece of paper is your testimony or somebody forewarned you about a witness form.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for allowing me to testify today. My name's Aaron Smith. I'm the Tourism Marketing Director for the City of St. Genevieve. Currently, we have a 2% transient tax in the city, none in the county. For us to become a destination like I'd like it to be, we kind of have to promote the city and the county together. You know, we have wineries in the county, great hiking, and then we have the history of the city, and we need to kind of merge those two. So I just want the ability to take this to a vote of the people and make my case compelling. So thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions of the witness? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Leave this here.
Anyone else to testify in favor?
Good afternoon. Joe Steiger, City Council, St. Genevieve. again, I want to show my support for this bill and thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak. Currently, we have a small transient tax into the city only, and it really limiting us to what we can showcase about St. Genevieve, Perry County, and Missouri as a whole. We've really tried to push Missouri as a whole. This bill would be for a vote of the people, so it's not something that's coming directly from Jeff City, but it's coming from the voters of St. Genevieve and Perry County. So we are very much in favor of this to let the people decide.
Any questions? Yes, Senator Henderson.
More as a statement, I think most people don't realize what all you all have down there at this time. All the history and the wineries and the, like Pickle Springs, hiking trails, and some of the other things you have available to people. So I think this probably could be a good help to you.
We're very blessed as Missouri as a whole.
Any other questions? Thank you. Anyone else testify in favor? Anyone in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes only? Senator Berger, in closing comments.
I close. Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next bill will be by Senator Black, Senate Bill 388. Senator Black, proceed when you're ready.
Glad I have my hearing aids.
Senator, I'm not sure what that is, but go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Senator Henderson and committee. Senate Bill 388. This bill deals with St. Joseph, but it also ends up with Springfield. And I've been working with this. Senator Luetmeyer was the one that had worked with this kind of legislation in the past because Senator Luetmeyer represents St. Joseph. And because of his change in position, he asked if I would be willing to carry that. And of course, St. Joseph is very important to our region, and I, of course, said yes. This deals with land banks. Some of us have heard about land banks in the past, and the bill has been heard. Representative Faulkner in the House has presented the bill over there, and he's working with Representative Owen as they try to combine some things and get rid of some things in the language in front of you. So Senate Bill 388, as in front of you, changes some things on the board. That's at the bottom of the first page. If you look at that, the way this board is managed, I was told today by Representative Faulkner, that there's some negotiation going on at this time, so there'll be some continued changes to make this match because there was concerns about some of the changes going on. I can somewhat get into some of that detail, but not a lot. And then the rest of it is pretty well in the detail. There was a part that was done a year or 2 years ago where a land bank could only access land that was adjacent to a piece of property they already had within an area. And that limit, and for me, my understanding is, I told you that this wasn't legislation I carried, it doesn't match my 19 counties very much. But my understanding that seems like a silly thing to think that they have to be adjacent to a piece of property when you're trying to upgrade a neighborhood or an area. So this removes that restriction. Then the last thing that I also want to make sure that everybody hears, and for those of you that really want to dig into this or want your staff to, there's also discussion of adding the nuisance property statute as well as this. And whenever I printed this out earlier and looked at that, I asked, does that mean if I wake up one morning and decide my neighbor's a nuisance, that puts them in that category? The answer is no. There are things within the statute that determines what nuisance property is, and I will give you the number of that statute if you want to write that down at this time. And you don't want to go look it up somewhere else. 82.1025. And I think I pretty well, no, not pretty well. I provided you what changes may be going forward as this, with this bill, as we try to mirror both of these bills, making it through the Capitol this year. With that, I'll try to answer any questions. Don't try to make me look like too much of a fool up here on a microphone, but I'll do my best.
Any questions for the senator? Seeing none. Anybody to testify in support? Turn in your form, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Trent Watson here, registered lobbyist on behalf of the St. Joseph Area Legislative Coalition. I wanted to go on record in support of Senate Bill 388. Previously, Kansas City, St. Louis, and St. Joseph were able to create land banks. I believe last year or the year before, Representative Owens passed legislation to expand that to other communities, other cities that could do it. And so we were operating a little bit different in St. Joe, and so we filed the bill sort of in response to correct some things. So that's what the negotiations are going on and happening. And really, I think what we're down to is really the one change we want to make is the adjacent property issue and making that change. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Anybody else in support? Seeing none. Anybody in opposition? Again, seeing none. Anybody for informational purposes only? Senator Black, you recognize close.
Thank you. I close. Sorry, Senator. No, you're going to go first. Yeah, Senator Roberts and I have been part of working on this bill. May not be quite as smooth as hopefully yours is.
I certainly hope so.
Senate Bill 382, Senator Fitzwater, please begin.
Well, I certainly don't envy Senator Roberts having to tangle with you, Mr. Chair, but good luck to him.
It has not been that relationship.
I'm just kidding. You're both incredibly reasonable people, so I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Okay, we'll vote on your bill sometime.
I'm Travis Fitzwater, Senate District 10, bringing Senate Bill 382 before you. This basically fixes a loophole that was created when Wayfair was negotiated a couple years ago that disallowed certain taxing districts from having access to the Wayfair to fund emergency services, including 911, ambulance districts, fire districts. I was on a fire district board. Before I got into politics, it was very, very important fire district in a growing community in Holt Summit just up the street. And these are very important entities, especially in growing communities. And so just want to make it an equal playing field for taxing jurisdictions to be able to access Wayfair use taxes in the event that they see fit to pay for the services they have in their local communities. And it's as simple as that.
Do we have any questions? Senator Henderson.
So do they have to pass this, or would this be rolled into, if they pass it in that, say, county, would this be rolled into
I
that
believe
municipality?
I believe they'd have to pass it. I don't want to automatic.
So they had, this would be a separate passage for
I
them?
think they'd have to pass the use tax, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And if I'm wrong, I'd like to figure out how to make sure that's, local jurisdictions are approving those things before they go into effect.
Senator Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, you know I have issues with that. I did last year, and so it's no secret. But I just want to make sure everybody's aware of the fact that this could jump ahead of a county passing Wayfair, correct?
That's a technical question. I think we did talk about it, and you believe that's the case, and I'm happy to talk about any fix on that too.
I think that's the case. So here's the situation. I live in a small county where we're cutting funds for small counties right and left, and we put the senior property tax freeze, which was their option to do, but that's taking away from future growth. We're looking at cutting their personal revenues from personal property taxes, and what this could actually do is they wouldn't even have, my county's not passed Wayfair yet. So let's just say an ambulance district decided they wanted to put this on the ballot. They could put this on the ballot and pass it, and then I still don't have Wayfair for my county. And I believe if this were to go on the ballot first, it's just going to put my county that much further back from being able to pass Wayfair. So, I suggested that maybe we could make it, amend the bill to say you can only do this after the county's passed Wayfair. But they did not, not the senator, but the other people I talked to, they really didn't want that to be the case. But I'm adamantly opposed to letting this happen before the county passes Wayfair, because I think you're going to make it impossible for the ones that have not passed it to be able to pass it if this jumps ahead.
Senator, I'm always willing to work with you too.
Likewise.
Yeah.
We get along very well. We work well together.
I can't imagine this goes very far without you having being in a comfortable spot. So I think there's some conversation to be had there.
I appreciate that.
Senator Beck.
And Senator, too, I have some concerns because there is 5 counties that currently cannot do the sales tax for their fire districts and ambulance districts. And I would like for us to come to some sort of conclusion. We had Senate Bill 33, I think, in here. It's not on the calendar yet. Hopefully it gets there. But that would address some of that, but also the ability to do Wayfair after the fact would be a good opportunity that if a emergency or fire district would try to impose that sales tax, it would also apply to Wayfair if you currently had it. That would be, I'm kind of with the senator on that one, because St. Louis County doesn't have Wayfair at this point. Now there might be some of the cities and municipalities that do, but the county itself doesn't. So. Okay, yeah, and again, I think I'm all ears on figuring out how do we make this right for everybody. So. Thank you, Senator. Talk about that. That's the most pleasant our conversation has ever been. Well, I don't know if you'll hear that from anybody who comes up behind me, but I think that's the only way to function in the Senate is to sit down and figure out what's a path forward. So,
any other questions from the senators? No. Yes, Senator Berger.
I just kind of want to echo a comment too that's been talked about, but that first line is just kind of a problem. County law authorizes counties and municipalities to impose a local use tax if a local use sales tax is imposed. I think it about has to be, the county has to have use tax before this can be put on to, because it's this would put the counties at bay that haven't passed the use tax and they're struggling so much already. That would have to be corrected before I could be part also.
I'm sorry, Senator, which first line are you?
I'm looking at your introduced this portion here. Senate Bill.
Oh, the summary. Okay,
summary.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I think obviously this one's got to have a little bit more discussion on what it looks like. So happy to have those discussions and figure out where we can get to everybody in that at least feels comfortable with it going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? No. Anyone testify in favor of the bill? Senate Bill 382.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Brent Tempill here on behalf of the Missouri Ambulance Association. Obviously, this has been around for a couple years now. I appreciate Senator Crawford, your comments, and Senator Beck and your comments. I would just ask that we try to work out some resolution to this, because we have ambulance districts, particularly in very rural parts of the state, that Wayfair is a huge issue for them to backfill sales tax loss, because we all know, I'm one of them, that purchases about every day off the internet. Those revenues are not going to your communities to support essential services. So while I respect the ability of counties and cities to go ask for a Wayfair, and I don't really have a preference of who goes first, I ultimately think the local voters should have that right to make that determination over what taxes they pay. I would just respectfully request that we try to work out a solution that's best for all. And I think for Senator Berger, your comment, if the statute, the change in the bill, all we are doing is defining what a city and county is to include it as an emergency medical services, so anybody that provides those services would be under that definition of county or city for purposes of Wayfair. It's a unique way to draft it, and I think it's pretty simplistic. Be happy to answer any questions.
Senator Henderson.
So just to be clear, because I'm kind of looking at what Senator Crawford said, if the ambulance district came in first, what would happen if the county tried to come in behind them? How would that work?
It would be nothing, I think, and I don't want to put words, I think your concern is if the emergency medical service, ambulance district, or fire voted for it, it would make it that much more challenging to vote for another tax increase for other services.
Okay, but there's only so much of this. I'm obviously confused. So how would the pie be divvied up at that point? It's based on your because what if the county did it? That's going to be part of that ambulance district. So how would that money be?
Two completely separate political subdivisions.
Okay.
So you have fire protection districts, you have 911 districts, you have counties, you have cities. So it would be its own standalone ambulance district, which has its own boundary lines.
So they pay both taxes.
Completely two different.
They pay both taxes. Is what would happen?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
If the voters voted for it, they would pay both taxes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Those districts, before you leave, I've got one I just thought about. Those districts that we're talking about, emergency services, there are times that they're internal county, there's times they're probably complete county, and there's times that they might even cross county lines, those districts, right?
That's correct.
Because I do where I live at, and those 19 counties trying to supply funding to those to keep those moving, especially considered something that's not part of this conversation, but what's happened with Medicaid reimbursement, et cetera, for our ambulance districts at home. There's a shortage there that's going to have to come, or we'll go back to the old idea of you throw them in the back of the truck and hope you get to town in time.
We never want to go back, I think. We shouldn't allow some folks, regardless of their address, to not have access to good quality emergency medical services, even though there is geographical boundaries that we have to come up with. The whole notion that the world is going towards online purchases and our retail establishments, right, wrong, or indifferent, we've got to figure out a way to keep those ambulance districts, fire districts held harmless with revenue. And so currently they're going the wrong way. It is a substantial loss to many of the districts in your area that are losing out on that revenue and are struggling mightily. When an ambulance costs $450,000 and you got to pay $60,000, $70,000 for a paramedic, I mean, it gets really expensive to offer ambulance services all throughout the rural parts of the state.
Senator Beck.
I just want to be clear, just to make sure what we're doing here. This would allow, say, that half-cent sales tax that you currently have. If a ambulance district went out and got the use tax for that, they would have Wayfair would be in that district, in that ambulance district. So Wayfair would be there, but not in the rest of the county.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else testify in favor? Please state your name and begin, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Frank Flasspohler, and aside from being an EMT for the last 20 years, I serve as general legal counsel for a little bit over 100 ambulance, fire, and 911 districts across the state. And so I want to just communicate to you how important this bill is to them, especially for the rural districts. So some of my clients, I represent Lynn County Ambulance District and Andrew County, I believe are both within your area. I represent Polk County 911, a lot of fire districts, all the way over to more urban districts like Union Ambulance in South St. Louis. This bill really is about leveling the playing field so that emergency service districts can ask their voters to approve a use tax in the same way that the counties can. Also, for small businesses, you talked a lot about this being a use tax, Wayfair, and internet tax. For the small businesses, I think this is a lot about fairness. So if I go into Quarles Electrical Supply in Bolivar and I buy a hammer or a roll of wire, I'm going to pay a local sales tax, right? But I will not pay if I go to Amazon and I buy that exact same thing. And so this really for local businesses is about ensuring that they're not at a disadvantage by having online sellers be able to get out of that local sales tax. It's really important for these ambulance, fire, 911 districts. We don't have exact figures, but our estimates is that this could be a difference of about 15% of their annual funding, which when we're competing with wages, more expensive equipment, training, trying to draw people into rural EMS, this bill could make a huge difference. And so I would ask you to, on behalf of everybody I represent, please support this bill.
Any questions of this witness? Senator Crawford.
I know this is kind of a loaded question and it's hard to answer, but can you give me an idea, just say in a small county, what do you think it takes to run an ambulance district for a year in a small county?
So I am from Fayette, Missouri, which is Howard County. We have a population of about 10,000 people. My dad actually started his 51st year as a paramedic this year. So we've been in there for a long time, right? I grew up knowing that. The Howard County budget is a little bit over $1 million a year. They are solely a property tax district. So this bill won't have any effect on them. But that's, so they have about 10 full-time employees, but like Mr. Hemphill testified, you know, a new ambulance, when you can get them and there aren't chassis supply issues, a new ambulance is $350,000, $400,000. Every one of their 3 ambulances has a $50,000 monitor, a $30,000 stretcher, and then all of the other supplies that go along with that. So it's very expensive to run rural ambulances.
So just as a comment, I mean, Mercy supplies our ambulance. We don't have an ambulance district, but they ask our county commission for like around $300,000 a year. So why would it only be that? I mean, are they subsidizing the rest of it? Or, because I'm just trying to wrap my head around why we would need, I mean, 0.5% in my county is $1 million, and they only ask for like around $300,000. So in order to stay at one point, now they've kind of come to an agreement since then, but they basically came to my county and said, either you pay us $300,000 or we're leaving. So why would that number be so much less than the $1 million?
Thank you, Senator. That's an excellent question. And so Mr. Bob Patterson is the leader of EMS for Mercy Health, and he does an amazing job. Just as a comparison, my dad in Howard County will run about 1,300 calls this year. Mercy Health will run over 100,000. And so these rural EMS agencies have a lot more invested in cost per call, right? It just takes a lot more to keep 2 paramedics, 2 EMTs, a truck that's sitting there available 24/7 with a backup crew. Those things are a lot more expensive, and so Mr. Patterson just does it on a much larger scale that I think lets him do it somewhat more cost effectively. And I do believe that he subsidizes significantly those counties that don't have a local tax base.
So just for the committee's benefit, so he asked $300,000. If we passed 0.5%, they would get $1 million. So just FYI. And I do appreciate your comments, and I appreciate the information.
Thank you, Senator.
Any further questions? Thank you. Anyone else to testify in favor? Please come forward.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Senators. Tom Dempsey, registered lobbyist for the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts. Everything's been said, but not everyone said it. You know, when the collection of the internet sales was being considered as federal legislation and being sponsored by Roy Blunt, it was called the Main Street Fairness Act. And so, you know, what we really have is, as Senator Fitzwater said, closing a loophole. I have a friend of mine owned a golf discount store back when the state legislature was considering Wayfair. He said people will come to his golf store, they'll look at the driver, that'll be the showroom, you know, and then once they decide what they want to buy, they'll go back and buy it on the internet. And so, you know, just as a fairness issue, as it's already been stated, it's just really making your local small business people compete on a level playing field. And I know the intention is not to pit one political subdivision over another. You know, they all should have the benefit of collecting that tax. And I think it's just an education job to your constituents, and when those campaigns are run, that will ultimately, I think, work this out. But we want to go on record in support of Senator Fitzwater's Bill 382.
Thank you. Any questions of the witness? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else testify in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Trent Ford with the Ambulance District Association of Missouri. We'd like to go on record in support of this bill. As far as the 0.5% that you were talking about, Senator Crawford, you don't, 0.5%'s high. You could also ask for a quarter, a third. I mean, that's just the limit of it. It doesn't go over.
Any questions of the witness? Thank you.
Thanks, Senator. Thank you.
Anyone else testify in favor?
Good afternoon, Katie Gamble here on behalf of the Fire Service Alliance. Want to go on record in support of the legislation. I think we've covered all of our bases so far, so happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else testify in favor? Anyone testify in opposition? Informational purposes only.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Trent Watson, registered lobbyist here on behalf of the Missouri Association of Counties. Sitting here listening to testimony, we're certainly not in opposition to the EMS fire districts getting funded, but I was kind of thinking back over the years and how long it took us to pass Wayfair. And the complicated tax structure that we have in Missouri, right? We have so many taxing jurisdictions. That's why it took us so long to get Wayfair passed, because we have to simplify our tax structure in order for that online system to know what that tax rate is at that local level. So when a county passes a use tax, it mimics the sales tax. So on online sales, they know, okay, they've got a use tax or they don't. So they know exactly what that rate is. So I would just caution the committee moving forward that we know that this wouldn't throw us out of compliance on Wayfair, that those online sales would know exactly what the tax rate is at that local entity.
Any questions of the witness? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Any closing comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you. Senator Brown, you're the next on my list. Senate Bill 396. Okay, this is a consent bill. Okay. Please begin.
Well, it's great to be back at my favorite committee again. I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 396. For the record, I am Ben Brown, State Senator for the 26th District. And this bill is actually really delightfully simple and non-controversial, which I can't say about every bill that I've filed, so it's kind of a nice change of pace from some of the others. Senate Bill 396, it enables the Board of Trustees of a consolidated public library district to simply change the dates of their fiscal year. Currently, a library's fiscal year is mandated by state law to begin on July 1st and end on June 30th. This bill, I will state, it did pass in the House last year unanimously with a vote of 146 to 0. And the problem that this is seeking to resolve is that many consolidated library districts, they have to use their reserves to cover the bills from July through December until the annual revenues are collected. So aligning a library's revenue stream with its fiscal year, for one, it would be a much cleaner form of, from an accounting perspective, to have the revenue collected at the beginning of when the fiscal year begins. And this bill would allow them to better align its fiscal year with its revenue stream. Currently, it's a bit of a balancing act to manage contracts that run on a calendar year while being mandated to operate on a July 1st fiscal year. So as a result, you have expenditures from those calendar year contracts that end up being budgeted for in 2 different fiscal years for library districts. In addition, approximately 90% of local library districts' revenue comes from property taxes collected on an annual calendar basis. So, in other words, this isn't received until January, February, March, and so currently there's a need to keep 6 months of operating funds that are just held there in reserve. And this is a scenario to where these funds could be utilized for other things, such as paying down debt and loans and saving money on interest that they're just not able to do at this point. I'll also point out this bill, it wouldn't impact any library districts that for whatever reason wouldn't want to change their fiscal year. It just makes it optional. So this legislation only allows for a library district to align its fiscal year budget with its calendar year revenue stream. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the Senator? Senator Nicole.
Senator, I want to thank you so much for bringing such a simple bill. But I have to admit to you, I read it once this weekend, and it was so simple. I read it 3 more times just to make sure I wasn't missing anything, but thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I want everybody on the committee to know that Senator Brown has discussed the possibility of this bill being consent as well. So you need to make sure as we go through things and discuss, if you got questions about that, please contact me or my office, okay? Anybody testify in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Randy Scher, representing the Missouri Library Association. I can't add much. The Senator did a fabulous job of presenting the need for this. The one thing that I would add is that in terms of holding that money or not having it to pay at a certain time, some of the financial consultants for some of the libraries have told them that if this passes, it could save them interest because the money comes in at the beginning of the year. So for all the reasons that he mentioned, the other additional benefit is the possibility of saving some interest rates on bond payments. So that's key to us also. As he mentioned, this bill passed the House last year on consent, came over here and was voted out of the Government and Elections Committee, so it's had a good history. I don't think there's much more. The one thing, and I laugh every time I look at this bill, not because but this provision only applies to 6 consolidated districts in the state, and it was enacted in 1975. So it's a fairly old statute, and I think what happened at that time, there was no thought about giving them a different fiscal year and just aligned it with the state fiscal year, and that's why it was there, and it's only been amended. There's been 2 minor amendments to this chapter, or these sections, 182, 645 to 660, over the years. So, but this came to light about 2 or 3 years ago, and the Senator has been very kind to introduce it, so I'll finish there and be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Senator Beck.
I'm not trying to open up a can of worms, but I was on the school board for 9 years, and this was an issue because when your property taxes come in, that comes in, October, heavy November, December, and then it tails off there. Everybody else would be out of compliance at that point. But a lot of times, the school district would have to do loans, short-term loans, to get through those, to get to that period to where you get that bulk of that money when it comes in. I'm just curious why we do that in general. I mean, this is just a question for everyone. Why do we handcuff our, anybody that survives on property tax, and that'd be our fire districts also? The question is, I don't know what would be the harm in having anybody be able to change where their fiscal year starts to be where the money comes in, because that's just a waste of taxpayer dollars when you have to go get a loan or a short-term loan or whatever the case may be. It's just something I'm thinking about. I'm not messing with your bill, and I know it would change your title and some other stuff, but as you bring this up, I think it's a good point. Nobody's asked me to talk about this, school districts or anybody. Nobody's asked me to bring this up, but I think it'd be a solid issue of why we don't do that for anywhere else.
Well, Senator, we like to think of ourselves as leaders at many things, and this could be another one.
Any other questions? Thank you. Anyone else testify in favor? Anyone testify opposed? Anybody testifying for informational purposes only? Senator Brown, any closing comments?
I just once again like to thank the committee for the opportunity.
Thank you. Senator Roberts, it may have been wrong. We've talked about a lot of stuff, and yours is probably going to be done in 2 minutes after you get done. So we're ready to listen to Senate Bill 255. Senator Roberts, please begin when you're ready.
I'll just start by saying it's always a pleasure to be in my favorite committee with my favorite chairperson. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to present Senate Bill 255, which aims to improve the management of the City of St. Louis firefighters' pensions funds by restoring control to those directly affected, our firefighters. Now, currently, the firefighter pensions in the City of St. Louis are managed under two separate systems. The Firemen's Retirement System of St. Louis, which was established through state statute and city ordinance that covers firefighters hired before February 1st, 2013. Now, this system also governs any salary earned by those members before that date. And the Firefighters Retirement Plan of the City of St. Louis, which was created by city ordinance in 2013 that applies to firefighters hired on or after that date. Now, unlike the FRS, this system shifted more control away from the firefighters and placed it in the hands of the City of St. Louis. This division has created inefficiencies in pension management and removed some decision-making power from the very people these funds are meant to serve. Senate Bill 255 seeks to correct this by returning control of the funds to the firefighters themselves, ensuring their pensions are managed with their interests in mind. The bill was unanimously voted out of the Veterans, Military Affairs, and Pensions Committee last year. I'd welcome any questions, and we've got some experts here as well.
Thank you, Senator Roberts, very much, and thank you for working on this last year, too, and getting it ready to be done. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, let's start with people testifying in favor. Please state your name. Begin when you're ready, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. My name is John Brewer. I am the Executive Director of the Firemen's Retirement System of St. Louis. I'd like to give just a little extra background to how we got here and why I believe this is necessary, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. In 2013, the City of St. Louis was looking to reduce benefits for firefighters in the City of St. Louis. They wanted to close the old system down, a system that had been around since 1885, but the courts said that you cannot close a system that has retirees that still need to be paid out, that has members, active members that are vested that have already earned a benefit. So the city, instead of closing that system, decided to reduce benefits by, and instead of creating a second tier, which is common in pension systems these days, they decided to create a whole separate second system for these members. Now, that's unique in that it creates two systems for one occupation, firefighter. And I've been unable to find a similar setup anywhere in the country that operates in that way. it creates problems in general. It creates problems for the members in understanding their benefits. It creates problems for myself and my staff in trying to administer the systems. And it creates additional costs for both the systems and for the city of St. Louis. So over the past several years, I've been working with aldermen in the city of St. Louis as well as mayoral staff, just trying to, for lack of a better term, educate on what we do as a pension system, how we administer the system, and just some of the deficiencies that go along with having two separate systems. And that's worked over the years. It's finally culminated last year with the passage of a bill in the city of St. Louis that did two things. Number one, it allows for the new system that was created in 2013 to be administered by both my staff of the old system and by the board of the old system. The second thing it does is it gave permission for the old system to administer two separate systems. So that's where we are today. That's why we're here. The last step in this process, what Senate Bill 255 would do, it would give the old system permission at the state level, because we are a function of both state and local ordinance. It would give us permission to be allowed as a system to administer that second system as well as the system that we currently administer. I think something that's important to point out in all this is that there are no benefit changes whatsoever in this bill. It's purely a function of being allowed to administer a system, save the city money, assure the firefighters that their system will continue being administered as it has in the past. I think that's a good place to stop. I'd be happy to answer any questions, be more specific if you'd like.
Any questions? Thank you, people.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else testify in favor? Senate Bill 255. State your name and begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Clark. I am the president of the St. Louis Firefighters Local 73. I am also a full-time firefighter, 18 years now with the city. I wanted to thank Mr. Chair and the rest of the committee for allowing me to speak. I am speaking in favor of Senate Bill 255. As John just spoke, to the best of our knowledge, that we are the only group of employees that are in two current active pension systems. And what that means for somebody like myself, when I go to retire, I have to go to two different places to try to figure out what my retirement benefit looks like for one pension system. Where we've run into problems with that is with the new system, they're woefully understaffed. So if somebody's on vacation and I need to retire, I might have to wait a week. If I need to make some phone calls to try to figure out what I need to do, they might not answer. These are reports we've had from numerous members. It's been an ongoing issue. We brought this up last year when we pushed it. It hasn't really gotten any better. To no fault of their own, the city of St. Louis is having trouble hiring people, and our members are having some headaches with it, with retirement. So FRP, the new system, like I said, is understaffed. The plan administrator is definitely stretched thin. They manage all of the systems in the city. So they wear the hat of the plan administrator for PRS, the police system, employee retirement system, and then also the fireman retirement plan, which is the new system. So there's a lot for them to do. The old system, from what my members see, has a proven track record. A fun fact about the old system, it is the first publicly funded pension system in the state of Missouri. I think somebody already said that started in 1885. So it does have a proven track record. I believe right now it's currently 92% funded. It's been doing very well. As far as number-wise, the plans are around the same. There's about 1,256 total members in the FRS system, the old system. There's 769 in the new system. Those numbers will start to shift back the other way as people are hired and people are retired and then pass away. But, you know, really for us, members of the system, all this does is give some accountability from the plan, or some accountability to the members. It actually makes the plan work for them. The board is set up to work for the members, and I think that's what the most important thing here and what we're looking to get with Senate Bill 255. So I appreciate your time, and I would yield to any questions.
Are there any questions? Hearing none. Thank you, sir,
Thank you
very much. Anyone else to testify in favor of Senate Bill 255? Please come forward, sir. State your name. Begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Demetrius Alfred. I'm the president of Missouri State Council of Firefighters. I'm past president of Local 73 of 12 years, and I am a newly retired firefighter, City of St. Louis, with 34 years on. I retired in June of 2024. And I'd like to say thank you to Senator Roberts for bringing this bill to you guys. We think this is going to create a stronger system. It's going to save money for the city of St. Louis, and it's going to make the firefighters and retirees sleep a little bit easier, because we think it's going to strengthen the system. It's going to be administered properly and securely. And we really appreciate you guys taking a look at this, and we'd like to just be on the record and say we support the bill. Thank you.
Any questions of this witness? Senator Beck.
I just want to thank you for all your years of service. You've been a good friend, too, so thank you for all that.
Thank you, Senator Beck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Anyone else to testify in favor?
Thank you.
Anyone in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes only? Thank you, Senator Roberts, for getting us here, buddy. Very good. Any closing comment?
Thank you, Senator. And yes, this is the same as the final version, where we made some compromises and hoping to get to the finish line this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Roberts. I move we adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.